All three of us together on the Just Baseball show for Friday, May 23rd. Peter, you go high, I go low. Aram, you sit out because you're a curmudgeon. Three, two, one. Mailbag.
Mailbag.
Great job, Aram. You did a great job with your role. It's a mailbag episode. We've got questions from Discord, from X, from Instagram, and we're going to bounce around a little bit. It took until May 23rd for our first trade deadline question, which is great. So I'm super happy about that. Peter, who we brought to you by?
The sportsbook born in Vegas, BetMGM, and they got an awesome promo going this weekend. It's the BetMGM 300 NASCAR race at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. They're offering an odds boost token on Saturday, and the race starts at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. So if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, get started by using promo code JUSTBASEBALL for a first bet offer up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first wager loses. But remember, gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply. Do either of you know anything about NASCAR? I know Aram is a curmudgeon when it comes to NASCAR and F1. He commonly refers to it as a sport that is just turning to the left. And I kind of agree with you, but I have a small inkling. I was talking with Fink yesterday. I kind of want to put a couple dollars on it and just see what it's like if I'm getting an odds boost token on BetMGM.
Yeah,
So
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at plus 5,500 looks appetizing. F1 and NASCAR are very different. First of all, I think I would actually have more fun at NASCAR because it's not like an influencer event. But I'll just kick it over to Jack, who I know loves the spectacle that is F1.
I love F1. NASCAR. So did you say the Charlotte 300? There's something else apparently on Sunday. The Coca-Cola 600. Which one are we talking about?
We're talking
That's what
about
I was looking at was the Coca-Cola 600.
the one that BetMGM sponsors. It's their race. It's the BetMGM 300 NASCAR race at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
At Charlotte. Okay, so Coca-Cola has like Denny Hamlin. I've heard that name before. Chase Elliott. I've heard that name. Joey Logano, I think, was a thing as well. But I'm
I've heard
looking
that
at the
name.
Charlotte 300 now. Austin Dillon to win it. That could be interesting. And then how about this guy, Carson Kvapil? Kvapil.
Sounds like a
That seems
fast
fun.
name. Doesn't that sound
Yeah.
fast? Carson Capful or something?
Okay, interesting one. Jeb Burton, Jeb, Jeb.
Sounds slow.
He's plus
Jeb?
30,000. Yeah.
No wonder.
Anthony Alfredo at plus 40,000.
Could be
Yeah.
slow, could be fast. Last name Alfredo? You never know.
Yeah,
Uh,
all you have to find out is just who built the best car, right?
True.
It's usually
Is that
especially F1.
NASCAR? No,
I
that's
don't know. I
F1.
think F1 for sure. I just whoever built the best car, like, oh, he has a bad car this year, unfortunately. He just doesn't have a shot in any races. I heard about that with Verstappen, just doesn't have a good car this year. How the
He's
fuck
not
does
gonna
that
win.
how does that happen?
You
What do
gotta,
you
I
mean he
think
doesn't
you
have a
gotta,
good car this year?
I think you got to build the car from scratch. I think that's my
They had a
understanding.
good
Like,
one last year. Do
I
it
know, but
again.
you can't repeat the car. Like you do it again under new regulations, and it's like, oh shit, time for a new engine.
Like, yeah,
So make sure
you
to go
lost.
use that odds boost token on BetMGM if you're interested in NASCAR.
We got a lot of
Yeah,
mailbag questions.
we're not talking about NASCAR right now, but let's talk about the mailbag. You guys ready?
I'm
Yes.
ready.
We've got questions. We took 4 from Discord, we took 3 from Twitter, and 2 from Instagram. And I got to stop calling it Twitter. Like we're already what 2 years into the whole X thing. I got to just start calling it X. I think we're
Twitter is
past
such a good name. It's a
it.
tweet. Twitter. Like
It's
just using
perfect.
one letter X. I can never buy into that. I like Twitter. I like that name too much.
Thanks, Musk. All right, let's go to Discord here. Again, we've got 4 Discord questions, and if you're not in our Discord, be sure to sign up. It is the best baseball group chat you could possibly join. The link is in our episode description. And our first Discord question comes from Carter03. Who are some teams that are in a good position to make a large splash at the deadline, and who are potential targets? Again, thank goodness we waited until May 23rd for a deadline question, because if it was April 23rd, I would have blown a gasket. By the way, quick side note. I was close to blowing a gasket when I saw the episode title for Thursday. Paul Skeens mock trades question mark?
Oh, I know. And we even talked about it on the Just Baseball show. And Fink and I were saying, what?
I
We
know it
can't
was in the
just
episode
mention it?
title.
We can't just mention it. We can't have a little bit of fun. And we prefaced it.
No.
Paul Skeens is not getting traded. I knew you guys would hate it. And even Fink said that he's going to try and force Aram to write an article on it. And we also asked our
There's no
audience
shot.
on YouTube to force Aram through peer pressure. So let us know in the YouTube comments below. Don't be a
I
curmudgeon like these two. It's fun. It's fun. We're having a good time.
I think Bleacher Report does a great job. Let me preface this.
Do
I think
you?
Bleacher Report does a great job. But when they put out a thread of Paul Skeens mock trades, and it was just this team receives Paul Skeens, Pirates receives number one prospect, number two prospect, number three prospect from like 8 different teams, I wanted to delete the app and never return.
Whatever. I had
Yeah,
fun.
but what if
Fink had
we did
fun.
it?
If we did it, that's gas.
Yeah,
We
that's
did
sick,
it,
dude.
and it was fun. I had a good time, and I don't regret it for a second.
What was your favorite mock that you put together?
Um, well, we didn't. It was more of a thought process, so we didn't actually put together these mock trades because both of us are not morons. We understand that it's never happening, but we
Skeens to
just
the Yankees for Andujar and Frazier?
no. I said that the Yankees don't even have the capital to even make a trade like that. We were talking more like the Mets could potentially, the Dodgers could potentially with all of their prospects. So that was more of what we discussed.
Fold the sport.
Were teams that could realistically do it if Charrington ever picked up the phone and actually did it, but he won't. But it was
If the
fun.
Yankees actually did it, it would be like I'm sure it would be like Volpe, Lombard, Wells that might get it done.
I said the only way Charrington
More,
picks up
probably more.
I said the
Look
only
at you
way.
indulging in this miserable
Yeah,
conversation.
look at you right now.
But
You
like,
want
I
to
just
do it
want
to
people
start?
to understand. I want people to understand that like you can't just take the top 3 prospects in a system and say, yeah, that'll get it done for Paul Skeens. Like
Also-
you need all stars coming back.
Also, I'm actually gonna like burst out of my body here in a second because a superstar will never get traded
Never,
in his
ever.
second year of control because it's impossible to recoup the value. It makes no difference if you traded him 2 years into it, 3 years into it, you'd still get the same return. So there's no reason to trade him in the second year. And I don't know how this ever even became a thing. And it's God.
So,
okay.
Arm, if the Red Sox were to trade for Paul Skeens, what would it look like?
No, all right. What's first
Wait, hold on.
mailbag question?
Gunnar
Mailbag
Henderson.
question.
Gunnar Henderson for Skeens. Who says no?
Shut up. Okay, again, the question on the mailbag. Who are some teams that are in good position to make a large splash at the deadline, and who are the potential targets? I've got a list of a bunch of teams here, and I'm going to kind of throw them at you, and you add or subtract where you see fit. The teams that are like slam dunks, obviously, are the Dodgers and Philly. I think those two teams are primed to move for whatever deficiencies they may have. Philly can move for a closer. The Dodgers can move for whatever they need because they're the freaking Dodgers, and they might have the best system in baseball. The Cubs are in a very good position to move for some pitching, whether that's starting rotation help or bullpen help. They clearly need a closer. The other two that jumped out to me, Detroit and Seattle are in a really good spot to make a move for somebody at the deadline.
Absolutely. I mean, both teams in New York as well, right?
Sure.
The Mets, I don't know if they're necessarily going to be going after a starting pitcher, but they need to address this center field option. I mean, they don't really have any spots, and we're probably going to get into some players, which Cedric Mullins feels like a really good fit for the Mets. With the Yankees, I'm sure they'd be interested in getting some starting pitching, maybe some bullpen help, but I know third base has been a big hole for them. Oswaldo Cabrera going down. Maybe there's an Arenado connection there. Not sure if the Cardinals will want to trade him, but I also have a huge list of potential trade targets for those teams that we mentioned.
Cool.
I'm trying to think. I mean, the Rays are definitely going to sell. Like I'm looking at like other like underrated targets, but in terms of just like what teams I could also see being buyers, the Royals are in an interesting spot too because they're playing good ball overall. I mean, they're 28 and 23, but you look at the lineup and it just so obviously needs to be addressed. And they have 3 good catching prospects. So I just wonder if they're going to trim from one of Blake Mitchell, Carter Jensen, Ramon Ramirez, who's long been one of my favorite prospects at the lower levels, is really playing well. They've got some other guys that they can move to. So I think the Royals will be sneaky aggressive as well because it's pretty easy to upgrade that lineup. Really, like you could probably list 40 bats that would easily be upgrades, I think, in that lineup.
Was it harder for you guys to figure out who's going to sell than who's going to buy? For me, it was impossible to figure out who's going to sell.
Yeah, I think it's hard to figure out who's going to sell.
There's a handful of teams where it's so tough to know. Like, will the Astros sell? Like, what does that look like, right? They already sold off Kyle Tucker. They let Alex Bregman go.
But they didn't. They didn't sell Kyle Tucker. They got Paredes and Cam Smith. Like that, I don't view that as a sale.
I mean, I guess I don't view that as a sale, but they did trade away one of their best players and
sure.
then didn't retain Alex Bregman. And that's why I think it's an interesting conversation, because I agree with you. They're still a good team. They don't necessarily have to, but they do have a big time piece in Framber Valdez, who, depending on the next month or so, if they start to teeter, maybe he could become available. So would you guys mind if I list off all of the players that I thought could potentially be on the move? There's some obvious candidates, and then there's some Galaxy Brain candidates, and you can throw them all in the garbage. But I do think that I think there is something about some of these players that I'm going to name.
Can I ask, is one of the Galaxy Brain candidates Paul Skeens, and now we put it away forever?
No, it's not Paul.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I'm ready.
So here's some, I think, more obvious candidates, right? You listed some of the obvious buyers, and then there's some that we could definitely talk about. I think Cedric Mullins is going to get traded.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes all the sense in the world for the Orioles as they continue to bottom out that they'd be definitely willing to trade from their offense rather than, a rotation, which there's not much to buy. Sandy Alcantara, potentially, right? He's got a 7.99 ERA right now, but he's going to face the Angels this weekend. And Jack, you and I were talking about it on the last show about how his stuff has looked better and better over every start. So if he can rattle off a bunch in a row, there will be teams calling for Sandy. Nolan Arenado, the only reason I bring him up, the Cardinals are playing really good baseball, and I don't really expect them to be a seller, but Thomas Saggese, when he came up, put up a 142 WRC plus. And Arenado is playing well, so they could actually get some good pieces for him. And they have someone to slide in, so it wouldn't necessarily be the Cardinals are tearing it down. They might just feel they can get assets for a guy who they don't really want to pay anymore, and they have a prospect who can fit in at third. I know Saggese isn't, a third baseman by trade, but he can play a bunch of different positions and can certainly help them at that position. I already talked about Framber. That's more kind of getting into the maybe. I would say it's 60-40 he doesn't get traded. That would be the 60. But I thought bringing him up because I think there is a 40% chance. Here's a couple other names. The Brewers are fascinating because the Brewers are a few games under 500. And even when they're good, they sell, right? So could Brandon Woodruff be on the move? Right? He's got a mutual option. His rehab has gone really well. He's pitched to a 2.43 in the minors. If he comes up and he looks really good, free agent soon, I think teams will be calling on him. And here's where, and then another guy, Rhys Hoskins, has been crushing.
Hoskins is a good one.
Yeah,
I had him circled.
I think like slam dunk trade.
Yeah, that would be a slam dunk. Here's another Galaxy brand. And I don't think it's going to happen, but with the Brewers being below 500, I thought it was worth it to at least bring it up. Christian Yelich.
No.
Okay. That's fair. Just thought I would bring it up.
No.
Here's another Galaxy Brain one. Emmanuel Clase.
No.
Think about it for a second. I know Arm did a little
I don't
bit
hate
of
that
this.
one as much.
Think about it. It's a closer, right? And he's got a couple years left on his contract. The Guardians did, I think they gave him, a $50 million deal, or what was that deal?
Dude, I mean, it's up there with Freddie Peralta for being the most team-friendly deal in baseball.
But it is a closer at the end of the day. And the Guardians have such
5 years, $20 million.
Yeah, dude. It was a joke.
Yeah, which would probably net the Guardians a pretty damn good package when they have so many good bullpen arms.
The
6.4 million in
yeah,
2026, but then it's 10 and 10 in 2027, 2028, which is still a great deal.
But they're club options.
They're club
options,
which you're going to
The
pick up,
team
of course.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could see that. That wouldn't shock me. Especially just, I don't know, like the postseason performance and like just him being a little bit more human of late is interesting. But I don't know. I would think it would be selling low, so to speak, because he's got a 4.5 this year as well. I know he's been a little bit better of late, but I could see that one. That one wouldn't shock me. But I also just look at the Rays and like if that team is not playing great ball, like you can start to just pick guys off that roster, like Yandy for sure.
Fairbanks. I had Fairbanks circled.
Definitely. Oh, the whole bullpen.
The whole bullpen.
Anyone that they don't have 3+ years of control of, see ya.
Brandon Lau.
I think Littell could be gone. I think I mean, yeah, they could move a lot of those guys. I think Lau's definitely movable. Like all of a sudden, you have a bunch of guys that I think they'd be more than fine moving.
Yeah.
The reason I brought up Class A is the Phillies losing Jose Alvarado. I know that Jordan Romano has stepped in. We talked about it on yesterday's show. He hasn't allowed a run in May yet, 7 innings. He's looked great, but still losing a reliever of Alvarado's caliber still hurts. And I think they would have the prospect capital in order to go get an Emmanuel
Hmm.
Class A.
Absolutely.
I have this thing about like relievers where, no matter how good they are, if they're at peak value, like trade them. Like the A's, would they entertain a Mason Miller trade? I know that's
No.
already kind of been in the news. I'm sure if some team overpaid for him, they might. But I don't know. There's something about relievers where I feel like no matter how good you are, you could be available in the right deal.
Yeah, I think there's a cutoff. Like, I think if you're a fringe top 10 reliever in baseball, you're not very available. And Mason Miller is a top 5 reliever in baseball, and he's got 5 years of control left. So I would think no. But like a guy like Class A makes a little bit more sense. I look at teams like that are hovering around 500. So, a Fairbanks makes a lot of sense. Like Philly could go grab a Pete Fairbanks for like their number 7 prospect or whatever it is, whoever that may be. They could go grab a Kyle Finnegan. I know it's in division, but Finnegan's been throwing well for Washington. Like you just go grab him. The name that jumps out to me, and I know I brought this up with Aram, I think last week on the show, Brian Abreu has one more year of control after this year, and Brian Abreu has been one of the nastiest setup guys in Major League Baseball. I think if you slap him on the back end of that Cub bullpen or Philly bullpen,
Mm,
they get nasty.
I
So,
like
like,
that.
it's a guy like that jumps out to me where it's one year on top of what you get post deadline. And where are the Astros going with a Brian Abreu? Are they going to pay that guy? No. They moved Presley with 1 year of control left. I know that was at a much higher price point. I know Presley is worse than Brian Abreu at this point, but those are the kind of guys that jump out to me. Like a Camilo Doval, even though the Giants are good, they could end up moving Doval just because he's getting a little more expensive and he's only got a couple more years of control left.
I just don't see Duvall getting moved.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think the Giants will keep him, but I love the Brian Abreu shout. I think that, is one of the relievers that teams are going to be calling Dana Brown every day coming close to the deadline, asking about him. The only pushback I'll give you when you talked about top 10 fringe relievers not getting traded, I mean, we've seen the Brewers do it twice now with Josh Hader and then again with Devin Williams. And those guys, at least when Hader was traded and when Devin Williams was traded, regarded as top 5 guys. So that's why I
So,
don't think it's
but I think both
impossible to
only had
see.
1 year left
True.
or one and change.
They only had
That's
one
when they'll
year
do it.
left. They were getting expensive, and Milwaukee's an outlier.
Yeah,
Like,
but I think Cleveland might be a little bit of an outlier too, right? They
yeah,
don't really spend much money at all. And if the Tigers continue to just dominate this division, the Twins stay hot, and to Arm's point, the Royals are playing good baseball, they might just be around 500 and start taking calls on some guys. And I'm sure people will be asking about Class A. I kind of agree with you. I don't think he gets moved, but I think for this conversation, he is worth bringing up.
And then the Pirates arms, like not Skeens,
Heaney.
but like Heaney. Heaney will
Yeah.
go
Heaney,
somewhere.
Keller. I think Keller can get
Keller,
moved at that price point.
Falter.
Keller, yeah, all
Yeah.
those guys will go. And then I was trying to think, like, it is definitely going to be a seller's market because I think a lot of teams are going to be hanging around, and I think that's why the Rays are going to be a team that capitalizes on that. The Brewers, maybe with a Hoskins or somebody else, but also, like, we're going to get to a Brewers question. Like, there's a ride it out aspect where this team could just get hot and I think end up very easily cruising into the second spot in the Central and put some pressure on the Cubs. But yeah, then you look around, like bats is where I'm interested. Like there's not going to be that many bats out there. Maybe this is the time that Taylor Ward finally gets traded.
No, Angels
Um,
are buying. They've won
yeah,
six in a row.
they
They're
probably
buying.
are buying. They probably will. But like
I
you look around, like there's not a lot of bats out there, that I think are potentially going to be available. That's why I think the Rays are going to, potentially cash in.
I have one name that I'll throw at you that we haven't brought up that I think could absolutely be getting moved. Jays are not paying Bo Bichette. That's been made abundantly clear.
Yeah.
Bichette is making a lot of money. He hits the open market after this year. I'll call my shot right now. I think Bichette's playing shortstop for the Dodgers in September.
Mm.
Oh,
That fit does make sense. And Bichette has bounced back this year. He's one of the league leaders in hits. So That makes a ton of sense to me. I brought that up before. I love that fit.
Yeah.
One
It's just
more.
they'd have to slip a little bit more, but I mean they are only 500, so like right now they're not getting into the postseason. So
Yeah.
yeah, that could be one that makes sense to cash in on.
One more
Yeah.
small one. Nate Lowe with the Washington Nationals picking
Yeah.
up a first baseman. I know the Nationals just traded for him, trading a reliever, Robert Garcia, over to the Rangers, but the Nationals, we'll see how they look, but I feel like they'll be sellers in this market.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, that was definitely our most heavy question of the mailbag, but let's keep on moving here. Our next Discord question comes to us from Schroeder on Discord. Great listener to the show. If there was a not debuted yet Rookie of the Year award, who do you think would win it in each league?
I think this is such an easy question.
I think so too.
In the National League, is anyone going away from Bubba Chandler?
Nope.
In the American
Uh,
League, is anyone going away from Roman Anthony?
Like an edgy take in the American League is Basayo, just because
Mm.
Basayo could get up quick with where the Orioles are at, and Basayo's been ripping the baseball in Norfolk. But Bubba, like, I don't think there's anybody that holds a candle to Bubba Chandler in this conversation.
Arm, what do you think?
the only one would be Mizorowski, just
Sure.
because
Love it.
he's carving, but that would probably be the only one. And I could also, I think they're going to get up at like similar timelines. That Mizorowski's probably the only guy, and I have way more confidence in Bubba consistently doing it. And I think even last time out, they stopped Mizorowski at like 3 innings to just try to manage his innings because he's been throwing a lot over the last handful of starts. But yeah, I think Bubba's the obvious answer. He's just overwhelming hitters. But if there's one guy that could probably give it a little bit of a run, I would go with Mizorowski. And then yeah, in the American League, I mean, I Basayo could get hot and just torch baseballs once he gets a shot up there. But yeah, I mean Roman is I think just clearly the best prospect in baseball and is pretty much as close to big league ready as you can be.
At this
When
point with the Red Sox offense, like why hasn't he gotten called up yet?
They might. I guess it's just hard to figure out what they're gonna do outfield wise, and the second you bring him up, you can't really go back. So like, I still think they're trying to figure out how they're going to get him regular ABs because
Mm,
Duran's in left, Rafael is still playing a ton of center, and they're paying him right, and then Willier's been amazing and right. So
yeah.
when you bring up Roman, like you are effectively demoting Cedon Rafaela to that fourth outfield utility role, which is
the,
tough when you gave him a pre-arb deal. That's the interesting thing with the Red Sox. Like I like the pre-arb deals, right? They're low risk, but like you gave it to Rafaela, who like that one might not age that great. Brian Bayo, like you could probably do without that guaranteed money. It's not going to kill you. And then Christian Campbell, like I think he's going to be a solid player, but like probably not the candidate that I'm giving guaranteed money to. So like those three pre-arb deals, I think you might just have to say, hey, we have to relegate Christian Campbell because we can't just say, oh, just because or not a Christian Campbell, excuse me, it's Cedon Rafaela, just because we're paying him doesn't mean like, oh, I have to keep him in the lineup. We kind of saw it with Colt Keith too. Get the pre-arb deal, and he was really struggling, but you got to keep playing him because you're paying him now. You're guaranteeing him money. But I think with three pre-arb deals that you have
Yep.
locked up here, and all three of them may not look like heists, you might just have to be to eat it on one of them, which would be Rafaela, and just say, hey, he's just going to be kind of a fourth outfielder super utility for the time being.
Mm.
the other way to do it, and I know there were some photos and videos taken of him getting work with the first baseman's glove, but if Campbell does deem himself ready for first base, and it would be a weird fit to me, but like, you know what, just go ahead and do it because like Nick Sogard's the answer right now.
Yeah.
If Campbell does move to first base, that opens an outfield spot because Rafaela could slide back into the infield. And I feel like Rafaela could handle second base. I also feel like the logical thing would be Rafaela at short and Story at second, with Campbell at first and Roman in the outfield. But we knew this was going to be a jigsaw puzzle coming in. I think we viewed it as a more exciting jigsaw puzzle than it actually is right now. But I feel like that is the thing that makes the most sense, especially because Rafi is so opposed to playing first base.
But if Rafael is not playing center field, what are you getting out of him? Like the whole point
Aren't you
is that
getting a
he's
decent shortstop defender?
nah, not
Really?
really. He's okay.
I thought he was average, like
His
league
arm's
average.
kind of meh, Yeah, I'd
He
say
could play second. I mean, they're running with
Renji.
David Hamilton right now.
Yeah,
Yeah. And what if I don't hate Nick Sogard? What if that's a sentence
Okay,
that I
so
just
like
said?
if I give you a would you rather play Roman Anthony or Nick Sogard, what are you choosing?
I don't know. One's up in the bigs, one's not.
You piss me off sometimes.
That's what I tried to do with that.
uh, it's weird, and then you're just kind of married to Story at this point because you're really paying him, and he's been a liability. So they're in a weird spot there. But the problem with Rafael is if he's not playing elite defense in center field, like what does his 76 WRC plus do for you? That's where I don't know. It's a really tough spot to be in.
He's the king of going 1-0 in a count and then swinging a ball two and getting out. His ABs
Yeah.
stink right now.
What that he chases. He's always chased. That's why I think it was a weird. I get the glove made the floor high, but it was a weird pre-arb deal because the bat is pretty high risk. So I think Campbell playing first makes the most sense. But then in that sense too, you're putting the coldest player, like literally the coldest hitter in Major League Baseball right now. Hey, go play a new position, buddy. Like
Yeah.
it's a really chaotic situation there. Some of it self-inflicted, some of it just unfortunate circumstances. But I think the priority at this point should be find a way to get Roman in that lineup, and everything else doesn't matter as much. And that's not just me being the prospect guy; it's me looking at a team that really needs a spark, and I think that's a guy that can absolutely give you that spark.
Yep. All right, we're going to get to the National League MVP conversation in a moment. Before that, our first break. Third of four Discord questions is regarding the National League MVP, and this comes to us from Ryan on Discord. If Ohtani doesn't pitch this season with the pace he's on, do you think he would still win the MVP? Right now, I think Corbin Carroll and Fernando Tatis Jr. are above him. I think that's a good shout. I also think you have to factor in Pete Crow Armstrong with what he's doing right now. So I'm looking at a WAR leaderboard in the National League of PCA, Corbin Carroll. Unfortunately, Geraldo Perdomo is not an MVP candidate at the moment, but Ohtani,
Hey,
Fernando
never say never.
Tatis.
Never say never.
Sure. And then the next wave behind Fernando Tatis is like Freddie Freeman, Kyle Tucker, Francisco Lindor. The NL is loaded right now, and I feel like there's some competition for Ohtani. Now, at the end of the day, Shohei Ohtani's hitting 300 with 17 homers and 11 bags already.
Yeah.
I feel like every single year it's going to be his to lose, but we also ran into a LeBron issue in the NBA where he wasn't winning the MVP in MVP caliber seasons because they wanted to give it to somebody else. It's the LeBron effect. The standard becomes too high, and then all of a sudden you have guys exceeding a lower standard that are winning the MVP. I don't know if that's going to happen here with the voters, but again, this is a human voted award. It's weird, but I feel like we could be looking at a LeBron effect with Ohtani. I feel like Ohtani could put up the best season in the National League and still not win the MVP.
I see where you're coming from, and I agree with you. There will be some fatigue there, but I also think that Ohtani should be the clear front runner right now, and I think he wins it again, even if he doesn't step on the mound at all. I know Corbin Carroll is playing incredible baseball, right? You talk about Ohtani having 17 home runs. Carroll's got 15. He is so good. Tatis is so good as well, but Ohtani's just going to put up these insane numbers. He's going to hit over 300. He's probably going to hit 50 home runs again, and he's probably going to steal 35 to 40 bags again. So if we have a 50-40 guy hitting 300 with a WRC plus at like 180, I love Corbin Carroll. I love Fernando Tatis Jr. They just can't keep up with that. And I know the question is if Ohtani doesn't step foot on the mound, I think he's gonna. And then if you're putting up those offensive numbers, it's a wrap. And I think the only way that he wouldn't win is if these voters are just like, this is too much. Like, we have to give it to someone else. But are the Dodgers not going to win this division? And who's going to be the best player? Shohei Ohtani? And the odds on BetMGM reflect it. He's minus 110 to win it. Next best, Tatis and Carroll both at 5-1. So they see the writing on the wall. And I do too. Because I feel like throughout this season, there have been other great players in the National League, like the question, says, and Carroll and Tatis, and I ain't forgetting Geraldo Perdomo. And of course, PCA is right there too. Well,
I'm forgetting Perdomo.
But Otani is almost now having an underrated offensive season right now because I feel like for the first time, not a lot of people are talking about him right now. When behind Judge, he's the second best hitter in the league. Actually, he might be third to Freddie Freeman, who's
Yeah.
unbelievable. He's so good
Freeman.
too. But
Freeman's crazy.
Otani is, and you look at the underlying batted ball metrics too. He's like kind of getting unlucky. It's insane. He's one of one. He's incredible. I think he's going to win it again.
I really hope that baseball doesn't kind of go in that route where I think we've seen it kind of happen in the NBA a little bit, where it's like it's this guy's turn to win the MVP, like,
Agreed.
and we've seen that kind of become part of the conversation there. I don't think that will, because again, I think if Otani's just pacing everybody, like outpacing everybody by 20%, and most of the major categories that we look at, it's going to be hard to vote any other direction. But I look at a Kyle Tucker and the narrative side of it there, and I think
Mm.
it could be fascinating if he can keep it close enough. Because remember, it's most valuable player. It's not, I guess, necessarily like the best
It's that.
season individually in a vacuum. If it's close enough, you'll get this Cubs team.
Yeah.
It's an offense that is night and day from where it was before. And can you give all the credit to Kyle Tucker? Of course not. Like, PCA is the WAR leader in Major League Baseball by F4, but that is the biggest change in this lineup, and he has just jolted it. Now he's going to need to get the numbers up a little bit more, but I think he easily can. He's walking more than he struck out. He has 12 homers as well. He has 14 bags, which I think is a really underrated part of
And he
this as
hasn't
well.
been caught yet.
Yeah, he's 14 for 14.
Mm.
And he was had a little bit of a dry spell. Now he's getting hot again. Like, if he, and look at what he was doing last year. He had a 180 WRC plus despite missing all that time, but like he was on pace for like an 8 WAR season. So if he's in the 170 range, which I think is very possible, he's at a 157 right now, and he's grabbing bags right now. He's on pace to have 40 plus. I think Tucker, because the narrative side of it too,
Yeah.
where this Cubs team is just elevated and he was the big splash, I could see, if it was close, that narrative side like kind of boosting him, because you had this very tangible. It's very rare that you're going to have an MVP candidate traded that year, go to a new team, and then that new team elevated very clearly by his presence, and again others, but by his presence, I think he's helped elevate that offense. I could see writers kind of buying into that narrative a little bit, but he will have to close the gap. But I think right now Tucker has a better case than a Tatis. And I love Tatis, but I think he does. Carroll's probably a little bit ahead at this point, but
Yeah.
I think it's a fun conversation, and I think it's going to be a really, really tight race unless Otani just, maintains this 180, 190 WRC plus and goes nuts. But
I-
yeah,
I'm buying what Arm's selling when he says Kyle Tucker's his favorite hitter to watch in Major League Baseball, because like having watched him 6 times over the last 9 days, just like go through at bats. Arm and I were having this conversation with Rod Allen, who I've been working with on radio before the game yesterday on Wednesday, and like the point is there that Kyle Tucker gets objectively better as an at bat rolls on. It's almost like you're giving this guy infinity stones and he's collecting them. And if you double up on a pitch, like, hey, he saw this pitch 0-1 and now he sees it 3-2, he's going to hit it out of the ballpark. And like, it doesn't matter how freaking good Ryan Weathers' left on left four seam fastball is. It was 98 miles an hour with 20 inches of vert from a 5.11 release. And like, Kyle Tucker hit it into the seats in right center field because he saw it once in that at bat. Like, he's near flawless right now, so I can absolutely buy into that. And I think about that Harper year where Harper won MVP with Philly. Like, Harper probably wasn't the best player in the National League, and I always go back to the Heisman conversation. The Heisman Trophy goes to the most outstanding player in college football, not the most valuable player in college football. Like, this is not the most outstanding player award. It's the most valuable, and I can buy into the narrative around Kyle Tucker.
and Freddie could cannibalize him a little bit.
Sure.
Too. Like, that happens a lot of times. You have two players in the same team that are just absolutely dominating, and if Freddie's got a 190 WRC plus or 180, like, it's gonna cannibalize a little bit. But at the end of the day, Peter talked about the expected stats and stuff like that. Shohei Ohtani is a 486 xWOBA. So like, at this stage, it's Ohtani's award. But
And
I think we have as many good candidates. Like, one of these guys could actually close the gap, because I don't know if we normally have like 4 players like this that you can talk yourself into, giving Ohtani a run for their money or
Well,
for his money.
you talk about Freddie with Ohtani, and I agree with you that could happen, but PCA with Tucker, right? It's kind of the same conversation there. Like I love
I
Tucker.
don't know if he's going to be up at the top in in a lot of these numbers by
I
the
think
end of
he
the year. I think he's going
will
to be really good.
defensively. I think the
Yeah, which
F4
is
is going to continue to climb just because the defense is so outrageous. I agree with you. I think the bat is going to take a small step back, but also at the same time, like maybe it doesn't, right? Like maybe he just has an incredible season, and then it's like those two at the top. Which one do you pick? Oh, well, Otani hit 50 jacks and he stole 40 bases and he hit 300 and he actually threw 50 innings on the mound. It's over.
yeah, well, yeah,
It's too
then it's
good.
over.
It's too
Yeah.
good. So, yeah, I love the conversation. Like, who's going to finish second is fascinating, but I'm just so bought in on Otani winning. It's for me, it's close to over. That's just how good he is.
Really
Yeah,
cool.
he's on another level. He's arguably the best baseball player of all time.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's yeah. I just want to sit back and watch him win another MVP. Like I have no fatigue at all. Give him another one. I don't care. Let's see him rack it up. So for me, it's Otani.
Cool. All right, last Discord question is about catching tandems, and this comes to us from Regal Logger on Discord. In honor of the Drake Baldwin Sean Murphy quote unquote problem, do you think a tandem of two above average hitters is the future of the catching position rather than one starter and one light hitting backup? The simple answer is yes. The more complex answer, and I loved the follow up from him in Discord. It was look around the league. You got Rutschman, Basayo, you got Contreras and Caro. I think Miami is going to run into this with Augustine Ramirez and Joe Mack, like Teal and Caro on the south side of Chicago. There are a whole bunch of examples. Kansas City at some point with Jensen and Mitchell if they don't move him after Salvi. There are plenty of examples of two good catchers making their way through. And we saw this problem with Toronto, right? They had three catchers and they moved the wrong one in Moreno, but they extended Kirk and they whiffed on Danny Jansen. It's better if you have it. The problem is like it's just so rare to
Yeah.
have two that are serviceable. So like the answer is clearly yes. It's better to have two above average hitting catchers, but really no team in Major League Baseball has that luxury. More often than not, you're going to run into a Francisco Alvarez and Luis Torrens catching tandem.
Aram, I have a question for you because that was the only follow up I was going to give to this question. Of course, it's better. It's really hard to have two above average catchers on your team. Like, that's just not normal. So, my follow up question to Aram was going to be in the top 100 prospects. I know you're creating the update here soon. How is catching in the minor leagues, maybe compared to previous years? Because it feels like, at least to me, a prospect casual, that the catching position feels more robust than it has been in recent seasons. I feel
Great
like
word
a,
choice.
a good amount of teams have a good, solid catcher in their minor leagues right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. A lot of them are graduating, which is funny. So you're gonna have another wave coming up. But I mean, even if you look at the top 100 lists that we had, put out preseason, the top catcher for us was Dalton Rushing. The second ranked catcher was Samuel Basayo, who's probably gonna graduate soon. The third ranked catcher was Drake Baldwin. But then you have Jefferson Caro, who with the Brewers is a stud, and that'll create a double situation there, double barreled action with Contreras and Caro. And then kind of looking at the other Caro, Edgar Caro, he was another guy that was ranked high there. But then you have a bunch more on the way and like the next younger youth movement of young catchers as well that I'm excited about. So I would say that it's really talented now. And the unique aspect of it, and I think this is what changes the approach now, is historically, I think you didn't want to have the catching like if you had two really solid catching prospects or two good young catchers, you wanted to get those guys reps, so like you'd rather cash in on one of them or just figure out a way to maneuver that. But now that you have the universal DH,
Mm.
if one of them is offensive minded or both of them can swing it a little bit, now all of a sudden it's a lot more valuable and more justifiable to carry two. So I think teams are going to be more willing to do that. I don't think we're ever going to see like a situation like the Blue Jays where it's like, well, we got a couple. Let's just cash in on one and get an outfielder or something. Like, if you got two good catchers, like, I think teams are going to be much more willing to make it work. And it wouldn't even be a discussion in Atlanta right now if they didn't have the one of the best hitting DHs over the last several years in Marcell Ozuna, who
Right.
absolutely can't play anywhere else.
Right.
And so that created a unique and challenging situation. I think more teams would rather have two catchers that can really play than one dude clogging the DH spot. And then that other
Yeah.
catcher can be running through there. So I think it does open up a lot of opportunity there. But at the same time, it's very hard to have that many, like to have multiple really good catchers. So, and usually the defensive side of things is what limits one of them. And now you don't have to worry about that as much because of the DH. So, like for the Marlins, they may not have loved the idea of Agustin Ramirez catching 5 days a week in the future, but you don't have to worry about that because you have a Joe Mack now that can catch 3-4 days a week. So that's where I think it's fun. I think the offensive minded catcher that was kind of cast aside because framing became so important, all of these things can now be more valuable because you can run them through the DH.
Yeah, and I count like on one hand 5 teams. I count on one hand the number of teams that have a clogged DH situation, right? Otani in LA, Ozuna in Atlanta, the Yankees, right? It's Ben Rice or it's Giancarlo Stanton, Schwarber in Philly, and then you go to the fifth. Who am I blanking on?
A's.
Devers in Boston.
I would add one more, A's with Rooker.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like
Yeah. No,
we
I agree
saw
with you.
we saw Soderstrom shoved out into left field. Like
Yeah,
we've seen Rooker play some corner. I think that's even more malleable than what we got going on elsewhere.
It's so funny. As soon as I said it, I was like, wait, I don't know if I agree with myself.
Yeah,
I agree.
exactly.
Rooker
So
could
it's
play
like,
quarter,
think about
but
that. Like,
I feel like he is a DH, though.
He
like,
is.
sure. So we're talking max 6 situations where the DH spot is legit clogged. Like you can use a catcher. We've seen, like the DH be more creatively used over the last 2 years than ever before. So I love that it's not just for your second first baseman or something.
I mean, look what the Cubs just did. They needed a DH to come up for a few games. They brought up their catching prospect,
Yes.
Moises Ballesteros, to hit, not catch.
Right.
Do you think with Cleveland Manzardo, is he kind of just a DH though?
He might be heading that direction. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But like
I'm
that's
just
okay
thinking-
because Carlos Santana's 40. Like he might just
Yeah.
play a shitty first base moving forward.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the fact that they play Carlos Santana so much there at first, and Carlos Santana's not a bad defender by any
No, he's
stretch.
like pretty good.
He's good. Yeah.
No, he's good. So, but I was just saying that I wonder if teams outside of Cleveland, I'm not saying that Manzardo is going to get traded. I wonder if he was on their team, would they have him as their everyday first baseman or would they put him at a DH? I don't know. I'm just, talking ball.
Cool. All right, let's go to Twitter questions here. This one was recommended by King Elijah Evans, and this came to us on Twitter from 4M Opinions. Which catcher will have a better career, Drake Baldwin or Dalton Rushing?
This is
Aram?
Yeah, this is
I don't
such
know.
a question for Aram right now. Your 10th ranked prospect versus 17th, but on that Drake Baldwin video, you said if you were re-ranking, he might be in the top 5. Both are so good. I was trying to go through the numbers, and I was like, I have no idea.
I don't know. I have no idea. They're both great. That's one where, I mean, they both do a lot of similar things really well. What I've been more like, I'll just lay it out like this. Going into the season, what impressed me about Drake Baldwin was how well-rounded his game is, where the bat to ball is good. The power, like the raw power, was really, really impressive. He was starting to get into it a little bit more, but that was kind of one restrictive aspect. He wasn't getting into it as much. It was a little bit more on the ground, a little bit more line drive oriented. With rushing, more whiff, but a lead approach and hits the ball at the proper angles all the time. And then the defense had gotten to a point where it was really solid as well. So now you have a Baldwin, though, that's slugging more. It's getting in the air a little bit more. He's a little bit more aggressive, but he's hitting the crap out of the ball, and he's closed that gap now. Like EVs wise, they're pretty much in the same boat. You could even argue actually Baldwin's hitting the ball a little bit harder, but he's a little bit more aggressive. So it's fascinating, and I think the separator for these guys is going to ultimately be who is the more elite defender or who is just the better defender, because they're both going to hit. And I can't totally answer that either, because Rushing has gotten to a point where he is so solid catch and throw wise and everything. I think Baldwin's a little bit better of a receiver. I would lean Baldwin because the bat to ball plus the power that has just really shined through now. But dude, I don't know. They're both so good.
I don't know either. I think they're both going to be awesome. I wonder too what the Dodgers are going to do. I mean, he signed Will Smith to a 10-year deal. At what point, like, I know they're trying to work Rushing in any way that they can, but it just feels like Rushing is going to be the starting catcher for somebody else just because you have Will Smith. I mean, what are they supposed to do? You
Well,
could say the same thing about Atlanta. Well, you
yeah,
have Sean Murphy, but Will Smith has really established himself as a clear top 3 catcher in Major League Baseball. Well, Murphy has dealt with a couple injuries, clearly super talented, but I feel like Murphy,
he's more
especially
expendable.
more expendable than a Will Smith. So
Yeah,
I do feel like Drake
It's
Baldwin has more of a lane to play
yeah.
catcher more,
That's why
but
I
that
leaned
doesn't
him here.
necessarily make him
yeah.
better.
It
Like
gives him a
Rushing
better
is
chance.
awesome.
It gives him a better chance, maybe to get to his ceiling. I think like Rushing has a tougher hand dealt to him. I
Yes.
believe.
Going back to the
And it's
trade
funny,
deadline
like
question, would Murphy get dealt in the right deal?
I think they're going to ride out this year with both of them.
I think they ride out this year with both.
I agree, but
But I could see an offseason deal. Like I could see, whoa, we wake up on September 9th and Sean Murphy's
yeah,
somewhere else.
I guess off season. I think you're right too. It would be in the. I don't think it would be the deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll put together Sean Murphy mocks at some point this
Good.
offseason. That'll be
Finally,
good.
Murphy for scheme
Uh,
says no.
what was the one? Murphy and AJ Smith Shawver. Who says no?
No, Drake Baldwin
Yeah,
and AJ Smith-Shawver. No, Braves fans aren't doing it.
Elijah texted me this question. And I said, that's amazing. And he said, I honestly don't know. And I just said, I lean Baldwin, I think. And he said, I think I agree, but a very slight lean. So I'm glad we're kind of consensus. Like, I have no idea, but maybe Drake Baldwin. It's also sneaky to me that Will Smith, again, I think there are plenty of good baseball fans that don't know much at all about Will Smith and don't even think about him when they think best catchers in the game. He's like probably the most underrated player in baseball. And Will Smith has a contract. He could just retire as a Dodger. He could be one of those like all-time Dodgers that spends 15 years in that uniform and people are like, "Man, I love him."
I think he could go down as the greatest catcher in Dodger history. I mean, if you look at the past like catchers the Dodgers have had, if he continues this offensive excellence and his defense has just improved year over year, I mean, go look at the all-time Dodgers catcher rankings. Like, if he finishes out this contract, wins a couple of rings, he already has a few. He could go down as the greatest Dodger catcher ever.
Next Tuesday we should do Will Smith versus Roy Campanella. How's that going to go?
Yeah,
Ooh, I like that. That'd be fun.
No, I hate it. I hate it.
yeah, that's. Oh gosh, yeah, that would be brutal.
I'd have a blast. I'll do it.
Yeah, no, but
later.
I do think he's pretty much set up to kind of be like like their Yogi Berra. I guess he's just gonna have like infinite rings. Like it is nuts.
10 rings.
Yeah, he's gonna have the picture, but like it's kind of crazy. Like he's already accumulated 20 and a half WAR.
How old is
As a
he?
catcher, that's tough to do, man. Like he's awesome.
Is he-
I'm with
Is he
you. So
28?
he's 30, sneaky 30,
Will Smith is 30.
just turned 30.
They signed him through his age 39 season.
Yeah, wait, when is that
That's
contract
wild.
up?
It was a
Through
10-year
his age
deal.
38 season.
That's crazy. It's a 10-year deal.
Yep.
I think
Also,
they feel good about it because he's going to keep hitting. If he can't catch anymore, they could probably put him at first base or DH. That bat's not going to stop.
So he
Yeah.
catches until Freddie retires and then he just plays first.
And then just hits a bunch of home runs, and
It's so funny. They just think in 10-year plans.
they can.
Also,
Unbelievable.
who's Will Smith's agent? Is it? I don't want to. I don't want to hate, but like the very unique contract here that it actually goes down at the end of the deal. Like he's making 12.9 this year, 12 or 13 million in 2026, 13 million in 2027, and then it goes down to 9.5 million each year through 2033.
But think about it. I feel like that contract actually tells us their plan that they're saying, well, we'd rather pay a 35-year-old first baseman about 9 million and when you're not catching anymore. I think we figured it out.
But that's like $5 million in 10 years.
That's
Like
true.
that's crazy. That is
I
a
see.
wild deal.
I see Apex Baseball as his agent, which has, yeah, like Horner, Bubich, Merrill Kelly, Mountcastle, all those guys.
Nice. Good for
We are
him.
the premier boutique baseball representation firm with power to command respect in the boardroom and the flexibility to adjust to the ever shifting So that's the Google.
5 million deferred in each year from 2026 to 2033 as well. Like, so 5 million of your 12.5 million is deferred.
That's good.
That's
But
kind
also
of
think about all those World Series rings he could potentially pawn. I mean,
yeah,
he's gonna have two hands
True.
full. So
yeah,
that's
True.
also adding on to the contract.
yeah.
That is good.
Those
Hey, you
diamonds
got his
and stuff.
bag though. It's still a
Yeah.
bag.
Easy. All right. Our last Twitter question here comes to us from, as I pull this back up. Actually,
Yeah, say it.
no,
Say
no,
it.
no. Sorry. It is our middle Twitter question. We've got 2 Instagram questions and then
Oh,
3 Twitter questions. Our middle Twitter question: who are some guys that haven't been quite as good as you expected that you think eventually will bounce back? And in parentheses, definitely asking for fantasy baseball trade purposes. I'll just list off some guys real quick, and you add where you see fit. I'm never giving up on Adley Rutschman. Like I
That
think
written
Adley could,
right at the top. And
yeah,
especially one of the highest hard hit rates of his career. The plate discipline is still there. He's getting unlucky. He's getting
yeah,
unlucky right now. He's going to be totally fine. I know the Orioles are in a free fall, and
yeah.
he's one of the reasons why the offense hasn't been there for him, but he will eventually get hot. I would definitely go by Adley.
A couple other guys. Brandon Nimmo jumps out to me. Like
Hmm.
Nimmo could absolutely get hot pretty quickly, and there's so much protection in that lineup. And if you can get discounts for somebody like Junior Caminero or Jackson Chorio, I would go ahead and do that. If people are like, oh, I'm kind of pissed off with the first 2 months of the Major League Baseball season, I will gladly take Junior Caminero or Jackson Chorio off your hands. So those are guys that jumped out to me. Another one, just for like the sake of bargain hunting in fantasy baseball, Christian Walker is just going to be better.
Mm.
yes.
He just will.
Yeah, as he
I like
especially
that.
gets comfortable there, those pulled fly balls over that short left
Yeah.
field at Minute Maid. I have another sneaky one going over to Miami. I'm an Otto Lopez guy.
Yeah.
If you look at the batted ball quality, he has been that difference between Woba and ex-Woba, sixth unluckiest hitter in Major League Baseball. He can provide power. He can provide speed. He's one of the faster players in Major League Baseball. That's a guy in deeper leagues that I assume not a lot of people have even maybe heard about in your fantasy leagues. Go grab him. I think he's going to be valuable for the rest of the season.
I like
You
it.
talk about unlucky. He also, like, his injury was unlucky. Didn't he
True.
like trip on something during
Pre-game
like
warm-ups. He like
yeah,
tripped
like
on a
tripped on a
glove,
glove.
he said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he tripped on a glove during pregame warmups. Like, yeah, the luck's gonna turn around for Otto. Um, I agree. Like, he puts bat on ball too consistently, and like he's fast and just brings enough to the table. I was looking at, and this is a little bit bolder. Like, I'm not 100% confident in it, but I still feel pretty good about it. I think Matt McClain's going to be better.
Me too.
He missed a lot of time. The shoulder stuff takes like again. I've talked to some hitters coming off of that shoulder injury, and like it takes a while to like feel 100% again, and like get like just getting slotted into the same spots with your swing, and I think it affects some guys differently. And McClain is just too talented. I don't know if he's going to match what he did that rookie stretch there, but he could definitely be better than a 595 OPS. He's still hitting the ball really hard. The swing decisions have been good, and he's so fast. Also from a fantasy perspective, like I think that's going to help too. And he plays in Great American Ballpark, so as he starts to heat up, I think it's really going to just elevate from there. But that's a guy that I definitely think will be better.
One more name to put on your radar, Andrew Vaughn. I think could be good.
What's his
Vaughn's
OBP at, baby?
OBP watch for Andrew Vaughn, 218 on base
Oh,
percentage. Love it. Among qualified hitters, I think he is bottom of the barrel in F4 right now. He's at negative 1.3. Aaron Judge is at 4.3. Yeah, Andrew Vaughn is the only guy in the negative 1 club at negative 1.3. Just missing the negative 1 club right now, Michael Tolia, the Rockies, Brian Reynolds, the Pirates, and Michael Massey, the Royals, with Josh Bell and Joey Ortiz not far behind. Also,
Joey Ortiz is
sorry,
shocking.
Christian Yelich at a negative zero point 0.8 WAR.
No, ChatGPT told me it's a minimally invasive back surgery. He will be okay.
I have.
Did you do the paid version or the free version? Because the free
That's the
version
paid.
told me
That
something
that
else.
was after I got the paid subscription, so I'm
Nice.
not worried about it. Um,
Gotcha.
I got a
the
few
other one,
pitchers.
this sounds crazy, but just dude, trust me. I think Michael Conforto gets going a little bit here.
Me too. I've
He's
been
I'm
been
not even.
he's
I
been so hard to watch. I'm telling you,
I
man.
know, but I think Michael Conforto gets going. That's all I got. The batted ball quality is actually a lot better than you'd think. He's hitting the ball hard. The contact rates aren't bad. He's been a little bit better over the last like 10 games. And I just think he looks fine. Like I don't I think it's getting better. Give my man Conforto a second.
Few pitchers.
Oh
Ranger
yeah, pitchers.
Suarez.
I forgot about those guys.
Ranger Suarez
I
is a,
don't have pitchers.
I got
So
two.
you take me through this.
I
Go.
got two. Ranger Suarez is a 5.09 ERA right now because he got absolutely destroyed in his last start. But then he threw 7 shutty. I thought he looked fantastic. And then in Coors, he gave up 3 runs over 7. Well, this kind of Coors start, but if you look at his expected ERA, it's below 3. And he is, when he gets going, he goes on these stretches where I say to myself, I'll take Ranger Suarez over any of you. I mean, he gets so good so quickly, and I think he's about to start to get on that heater, especially throwing deep into games. He'll get you wins in terms of a fantasy stats. He's not the biggest strikeout guy, but if he's going 6, 7 innings, he's going to get 5 or 6 Ks with plenty of wins, especially when the Phillies get hot in the summer. So that's a guy who I am buying betting wise, and I'm also buying in fantasy baseball leagues. Another arm that I just can't quit. Shane Baz has a 9.45 ERA in May, but he had a 2.45 ERA in April. He's too talented to just be getting crushed like he is. I'm sure there's fantasy managers out there who are sick of him giving him 5 earned over his last like 5 starts, and I'm sure you could go buy him for cheap. He's too talented of an arm to continue to pitch like he is. So those are 2 arms that I'd be IDing.
Cool.
Tanner Bybee. I know he's going to be better. I'll bet on Bybee any day of the week and him figuring things out. And then, it might be too late to get back in if anybody cooled on him. But like Max Meyer was just at the game yesterday. Like he had a tough stretch of like 3 starts where he had like 4 or 5 earned runs. He looked fantastic against that Cubs lineup. And I think he's a guy that just always needs to tinker with the usage a little bit. I think he'll start to fall into a bit more of the slider heaviness, but the changeup was working. He trusted the fastball more, and like that's a guy that I still think could be pitching at like a really really high level. So you might be able to still get in, at a cheaper price for like a Max Meyer, who you look at the ERA and the surface level stats got like a 4.15, 4.2. But again, I think he could be mid threes guys with a lot of strikeouts by the end of the year.
Sorry. One quick thing before we move on, unless you have something to add about Meyer, I have a follow-up question to that game.
Nothing on Meyer, just another guy. Like if somebody's stupid enough to jump ship on Cole Reagans and his 4.53 ERA, I would jump on.
Yeah, immediately. I was saying the same for Jordan, but the thing is, like, Jordan hasn't been swinging a bat lately. Like the hand injury, I think Astros fans, or at least I was reading an article today that they thought it was going to be a little bit quicker, but it looks like it's really nagging him. So I wanted to come and be like, buy Jordan, buy Jordan. But if this is just bothering him this season, it might not be a good opportunity to go buy in. One name, I was watching that Marlins Cubs game. I thought Cade Horton looked good.
Yeah,
and I know in his first start, he didn't look great. And I really wanted to ask you guys were both there at the stadiums.
Hey,
Yeah,
what
talk to him
audio
after,
were you?
too.
What audio were you using when you were watching the game? Did you overlay the radio broadcast?
The Cubs broadcast is on.
Dude, you piss me off. Again, you piss me off all the time.
I've listened to the Marlins broadcast. I know. I'm posting all of your clips. Don't worry. I'm trying to get you out there. I'm just saying, Boog's pretty good.
It was not Boog, but good shout, Peter.
All right, whatever.
It was Alex going.
Did you like
It's
Cade?
Alex going.
Do you like Cade Horton?
Yeah, I like Cade Horton.
Cade looked good. The big thing with Cade in that start is, in 2023, the changeup was really good for him. He went to that like Vulcan grip and found it. It was playing like a plus pitch. Then he kind of lost it and hasn't really had it for him early in this season. Really had it yesterday, and 9 whiffs on that pitch. And he said after the game, like it was just the first time this year where he really felt like he had that feel for it. He couldn't really attribute anything other than he had the feel for it. So
Cool.
I like to see that because I think he gets a little slider dependent at points, and the fastball is probably not good enough to throw it as much as he was throwing it going into that start. But I think Horton looks like a really solid 4 for them, and maybe he can develop into more than that. But like for now, he definitely looks like a good rotation piece.
3 more cues, 1 from X, 2 from Instagram. Before that, our last break. Now it's the funny name. Our last Twitter question comes to us from @Mr_BigBalls12. How do the Brewers approach the rest of the season? Stay competitive or sell off rentals and promote prospects? It's a straightforward question. Is there a straightforward answer?
No. I mean, the
Who are the rentals?
Brewers, we talk about them where
Hoskins.
even
That's
when
it.
they're good, they could potentially sell off. And I do think that there are just clear names, regardless if they're good or not, that they will eventually sell off. But, Freddie Peralta's a free agent soon. Brandon Woodruff's a free agent soon. I mean, they could really recoup a lot of assets here. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did it, and it might be in their best interest to do so. I mean, the offense is just, it's a tough watch. And, you hope they bounce back, but like we were talking about with Yelich, Contreras is not having that great of a year, right? You wanted some of these young guys to really step up, like Frelick or Garrett Mitchell or any Joey Ortiz. And they haven't exactly done that. I'm personally in the bucket of I think you trade Hoskins. I think you listen on your bullpen. I think you trade Woodruff. And if someone blows you away for Freddie, I don't think it's a bad decision to do so. So for me, I'm on the start selling off some pieces for Milwaukee camp. But I could hear the other side. I do think it's a complicated question.
Yeah.
Freddie could be the most valuable asset on the market this trade deadline time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an interesting thing because he's throwing the ball as well as he really ever has right now. He's again, you have only one more year of control after this one, anyways. You're the Brewers. You're not going to pay him after that, and I'm sure he's not giving you a hometown discount again. So I could see Peralta absolutely being a guy that if you're not playing great, you shop around. At this point, though, I think you of course ride it out for another month and a half. There's still a chance that this team can turn things around. I do think Yelich is going to get going as he gets further removed from that surgery, whether ChatGPT told me that or not. Jackson Chorio is going to be better. Like I think that's very obvious. Joey Ortiz, I can't believe how bad he is right now. Like
Yeah.
it's quite shocking how bad he is. I just did not expect that, and I just can't imagine that continuing at least at that degree. Logan Henderson looks incredible. He has
Dude,
been
so
spectacular,
good.
and that could be a guy that elevates you. Again, Mizorowski looks like he could jolt this rotation. I'm not saying it's over for them yet or anything like that. I don't know. I know that nobody is, but I think they could actually turn this thing around potentially. They're going to get Tyler Black back, who was dealing with, I think, a hamate thing or some sort of injury. He's already playing rehab games. Like, he hasn't fully found his footing at the big league level, but that is just another guy that could spark you. They're going to get Garrett Mitchell back at some point. Perkins is a better, fourth or better outfield option, even I would say, than what they've been rolling out there so far. So I do think things just naturally get better. And there's a chance that they could still just pitch their way to success. But I do think you listen on a Freddie if they're not playing well, and that could get them a massive haul. Maybe you listen on a couple of those relief arms, like you said, Peter, because the Brewers spawn these
Yeah.
dudes left and right, and you have like a Yoho that's going to come up and plug in, and some other guys. But at the end of the day, like they don't have that many pieces to sell off. So I think they see it through, and then if they're really struggling, I could see Peralta just bringing them in a stupid haul if they wanted to go that route.
Anything else? What I will say is they're in a good position, right? Like
Yeah.
they have the pieces that are proven in order to win a division. So you could totally see them just continue to go for it and not really sell off anything. Or, Arm mentioned all of these young guys coming up the pipe, especially in the rotation. They could trade Freddie and Woodruff and still be a decent team.
Yes.
So I think they're just in a good spot, and I trust that front office to make the
Yeah.
right decisions. So at the
Yeah.
end of the day, like I think regardless of what they choose, I think it might be the right decision. I know that sounds weird. Two different decisions could both be right, but I think they're in a unique spot where they might be the only team that kind of matches that description.
Yep. And
Yeah.
Robert Gasser,
Yeah.
like he was lucky a little bit, but it also was really good in his 5 big league starts. And
Yeah.
like that's a guy that could be like a good 4 or 5 starter for you. He's going to get back at the end of the year, so like you can see the rotation, like the situation in general being better. Like clearly they see something in Quinn Priester. You're not going to have a Freddie Peralta caliber pitcher though. That's the hard part. Is the
No.
only guy that you could even have the pipe dream of getting to that ceiling is Mizorowski, and even then it's you need a lot of things to go right.
Wait.
That's my only concern.
And here's the thing, like the Brewers, they always put together starting rotations where we say that doesn't suck, right? And going into next year, if their rotation is Gasser, Hall, Henderson, Priester, uh, who else am I thinking? Chad
Mizorowski at
Patrick.
that point.
Mizorowski, Gasser, Hall, Priester, Henderson. That doesn't suck.
That'll be a lot. It'll
Patrick.
be better than it looks on paper. I can guarantee that.
yeah, man. Like
Yeah.
that's the
With an
thing
elite
about the
pen.
Brewers. It's just
Yeah.
churn and burn with starting pitchers, and they've got a bunch of pre-arb guys. They can start that next iteration of Brewer pitching next year with no Freddie Peralta and with no Woodruff. So
Yeah.
I do think that this is probably a trim the expensive type of season for Milwaukee.
Oh, don't forget too. Hopefully the shoulder impingement doesn't keep him out too long. But like
Quintana.
Jose Quintana would be a nice trade chip too if they wanted to go
Absolutely.
that route.
Absolutely.
Aaron Savali could net you a player to be named later.
Yeah,
The
Dude,
Brewers are pretty good at identifying
name-
players to be named later.
that name is a curse word on the Just Baseball
I'm just
show.
saying.
I'm so out.
I'm just saying, rank your top teams who would be good at identifying a player to be named later. Brewers are up there with anybody.
Tampa 1, Milwaukee 2.
Exactly.
There we go. Okay, 2 Instagram questions to wrap. Congratulations on the debut, Robert Hassel III. And at Cam_Nom on Instagram asks, with Robert Hassel III debuting on Thursday, can you revisit the Soto trade? It was Juan Soto and Josh Bell, don't forget, for Wood, Abrams, Gore, Hassel, Susana, and Luke Voigt. Unfortunately, Luke Voigt is out of the situation now.
But hey, Luke Voigt did put up like a 700 OPS in the second half for them and hit a couple of home runs. Like that's not nothing. They still
Yeah.
got that.
The ripple is complex with Soto because Soto goes to San Diego and then Soto goes to the Yankees and Drew Thorpe comes back and Drew Thorpe is one of the headliners to get them Dylan Cease. Like it's tough to call this a clear-cut transaction between San Diego and Washington just because of what happened. But at the end of the day, San Diego did not get to a World Series with Juan Soto. They haven't gotten to a World Series. And Washington has so many building blocks for the future. They have 3. They have a superstar in Wood. They've got a frontline starter in Gore. They have an all-star shortstop in Abrams. Hassel and Susana are kind of the wild cards, but Susana at the very least is a leverage bullpen arm, right? Like this is as close to a trade win for a future Hall of Famer as you could possibly get.
CJ Abrams.
You can't forget. Sorry, you can't forget Michael King too. Also going to the Padres.
King back. That's right. And that is a ripple from the Soto deal. Yeah.
Yeah, that ended up being huge to like salvage the situation in general. But yeah, I mean, this is good. I think as good of a scenario as maybe we've seen for one of these mega packages where, I mean, they don't even like Robert Hassel at this point is like house money.
Yeah.
But now the house money is like Harleen Susana, who's a top 5 right-handed pitching prospect in the game too.
Really? He's that good in your eyes?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He dodged a bullet on an injury, which was like fortunate. Like I think they said it was the best case scenario given the imaging on his arm. I was kind of waiting for that because he's been throwing 100 since he was like 14.
Yeah.
But Harleen Susana is disgusting. Like disgusting. And that was like the complex level project pitcher that was thrown in there. I think you got to give credit to the Nationals, not just on identifying. Like I give the Nationals a lot of shit for their development and maybe they didn't do it. Maybe they got really lucky, but I'm not involved there. I don't know. James Wood was a high risk, high reward acquisition in this deal. CJ Abrams was kind of buying low on a guy that you thought at one point maybe immovable, like you not immovable, excuse me, like untouchable. Mackenzie Gore looked lost. Another guy that would almost always be untouchable, but because he was struggling, then became attainable. And all of those guys got right or pushed closer to their ceiling. Again, the Nationals are not known for their development, but something happened there that I think you got to give them credit for. And then even a Robert Hassel, like looking lost at points, looks like he can fill a role at the big league level. So, and then Susana, like that guy was not throwing strikes at all.
He was in the DSL
complex.
when this happened.
Yeah, he was not throwing strikes at all below low A, and now he's carving guys in double A. So, I think you got to give a ton of credit to the Nationals here for, getting it right on the package, but I think also helping get these guys to where they need to be.
And it's especially highlighted this season. Mackenzie Gore leads Major League Baseball in strikeouts. We're talking about MVP candidates. CJ Abrams has a higher WRC plus than Kyle Tucker at 160. James Wood has a higher WRC plus than Fernando Tatis Jr. right now at 154. Now Tatis is 153. I'm kind of stat farming, but those are the numbers,
That's okay.
and those are what they are. Like, those two guys have been top 16 hitters in all of baseball this season by WRC plus, and Mackenzie Gore has arguably been the nastiest pitcher in Major League Baseball. Shout out Jack McMarlin for putting him on his Mount Stuffmore.
Stuffmore.
So these three guys especially, right? You talk about all-star shortstop. I mean, C.J. Abrams has been one of the best shortstops in baseball. James Wood has been one of the just overall best players in baseball. Mackenzie Gore is up there for one of the best left-handed pitchers in baseball. So especially this season, I mean, talk about a home run package.
Yeah. And then I think Hassel is ultimately a fourth outfielder, but still, I mean, if you get 5 WAR in those 6 years of control,
dude, if you got 5 big leaguers and 3 very good big leaguers out of one deal, a 1 for 5 swap, you got a fifth of your roster for one guy.
It's insane. Yeah. And Susana, like, at worst, is going to fill a bullpen role for you and be solid. That guy, though, he averaged 99.8 miles per hour on his fastball last year as a 20-year-old in 103 innings.
Think about that. We're talking about a trade for one player that could get you your opening day starter, your number 4 starter in a year or two, your all-star shortstop, your superstar left fielder, and a 4th outfielder. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. I do wonder if you went inside the mind of AJ Preller, would he do it again?
I think,
like, knowing what they are now, do you think, even with hindsight, do you think AJ Preller, the maniac, he would never come out and admit it, like, no, I wouldn't have done that, I screwed up. And I don't think he
that
screwed
shot
up,
time.
right? He still got Michael King then back for Juan Soto. He went for it.
And
I do wonder,
like, Cease was factored in there too.
If you put him up to a lie detector test, like, would it say I regret that? I don't know.
That one hurts. Like, I'm sure it hurts. I don't know if he regrets it, but I think it's painful.
I think you take that shot every time.
I agree.
Like, because here's the thing: like, people look back at trade and say, like, oh, like, you know, Preller messed that one up. You're playing the percentages, and we were actually talking about this in the Discord, and I was saying this because, like, if you do a trade like this 10 times, honestly, I think you have to do a trade like this like 30 times for it to go this well. Like, it was a parlay of fortunate outcomes for all these guys to be where they're at. But, like, you play the percentages, you get the future Hall of Famer with years of control, you're going to win the WAR battle, I think, the vast majority of the time. And then you also didn't know, like, they thought at that point there was a chance of extending him, and then that didn't happen either. So that obviously and then the financial challenges that came with it later on, that created a much more difficult scenario. Yeah. But I think when you're trading prospects for a guy that's on a Hall of Fame track, you are going to be better off the vast majority of the time than the team that, is getting the prospects. And I'm not just saying that because I watched the Marlins acquire several top prospects from Miguel Cabrera or Christian Yelich, or, I could go on and on, but it's not even just that. Yeah. It's just generally speaking, right? Like, you need guys to attain their ceiling. But it's just one of those scenarios where even when you play the percentages, like, there's a few percent chance that this can happen, and it did.
Yep. All right, one more for you. This is our last Instagram question and the last question of the mailbag, and it comes to us from Ryan Conchado on Instagram. Could Gunnar, Henderson, or Adley Rutschman become trade candidates at the deadline in the or in the offseason? At the deadline or in the offseason? Gunnar and Adley. No. And I want to tee up Aram for this because he made the point earlier this week that Baltimore could just get right in a single offseason. Like, there are ways that they can make themselves a contender again in one offseason. Is this your shot? Yes. They already fired their manager. But could they be right back in the thick of the American League East next year? Yes. How do they do that?
Just address the pitching, right? So, like, the farm system is a little bit watered down from what it once was, but as we talked about, they're going to trim some of those expiring pieces. You're going to get a nice little return for Mullins. You're probably going to get a nice little return for O'Hearn. And then you've got reinforcements potentially in a Mayo and a Basayo that would come up and just further bolster that lineup. You're going to have a healthy Cowser. So it's one of those rare scenarios where you can spend your way back to success by just getting some solid pitching. Maybe they make some trades for some pitching, but this is a unique scenario where a team can come in last, and I think in one offseason can get themselves to where they can be a first place caliber team. So no, you don't trade any of those guys. And also, I talk about just a back breaking move for optics. I mean, this has already been an optics nightmare of a season. You just can't do it, especially this new ownership.
Oh
So
yeah.
there's no shot, absolutely no shot. Even with Basayo behind Adley, Adley is too much of a household name. You'd also be selling low. Basayo, I think, is what makes O'Hearn expendable, who's going to get you actually some nice pieces here with the way he's swinging it. I don't think they do anything like that or even really consider anything like that. And ultimately, you can get this thing right with a couple of the right arms being added.
By contention in 2026, like by the All-Star break or by the deadline in 2026, you could be running out a lineup. Adley catching, Basayo DHing, Mayo at first, Holiday at second, Gunnar at short, Westberg at third, O'Neill in left, Cowser in right, Bradfield in center. That's a very, very good lineup. And then you go attack with guys like I love where this pitching market is at. The hitting market in terms of free agency upcoming this offseason is not good. I don't love it at all. But why can't Baltimore hand out 4-year deals to somebody like Framber Valdez
Yeah.
or
Mm-hmm.
somebody like is Dylan Cease going to get more than a 4-year deal? Like if they brought in Framber and Cease and Bradish is back and Grayson got healthy and you run out a front four of Fromber, Bradish, Grayson, Cease, or like a Gallon
King,
on a 4-year deal, Michael King on a 5-year deal.
there's
Like
so
there,
many options.
Shota Imanaga, like Imanaga can turn down a player option to be available, right? Like there are options galore here for them to kind of spend in the mid level when it comes to starting pitching. Is it going to cost $80 million? Yeah, but it's not going to cost 200 like Burns would. You can get
Yeah.
two guys for 160.
I
Yeah.
think I hope Rubenstein steps in and he's like, I'm ready to spend.
He
Like
will. I'm
Mike
sure he
Elias,
will.
yeah, like give Gunnar whatever he wants. I would pay Adley. I still would. I know, fans are somewhat cooling on him just because, the offensive deficiencies lately. But like we talked about in the fantasy baseball section, I think he is
Never
going to
giving
get
up.
hot. Everyone on Twitter is just being like, "Oh, he's just Matt Wieters again." No, I think Adley is a great player, and I would pay him. And then you go pay a couple of those pitchers that you mentioned, and we're back. I mean, the Orioles won 101 games in 2023. They won 91 games last year. This is a season from hell. A lot of their starters got hurt. Offense has not shown up this year, and it's going all bad, but that doesn't mean that you're out of it by any stretch of the imagination. Totally agree with you guys. Go sign a couple of these big time pitchers, give Gunnar whatever he wants, and then sign Adley as well. I would do it all because they have the money to do so. Rubenside is in, he's so wealthy. He has billions and billions of dollars. He can easily do this. This is the offseason to bring back Orioles fans and let them know, yeah, this season sucked. It happens. We're going to be one of the best teams in baseball next year, and this is how we're doing it. We're putting our money where our mouth is. Finally, please.
And that's why he's going to sign no pitchers, and he'll just sign Trent Grisham to a 3-year, $45 million deal.
That'll
That's
probably
kind
be
of
a good
gas.
deal, though. That'll
That's
be a
kind
good
of
deal.
Platoon
gas.
with Tyler O'Neill out
Yeah.
there.
Trent
Yeah.
Grisham's Barry Bonds.
If
Yeah.
they don't get one of those pitchers next year, like I'm never
Yeah,
saying
it's
anything
a
good about
it's
them
actually
again.
a complete joke.
Because then it's like, I mean, what are we even doing here?
What are you trying? You're not trying.
You're just the Pirates again. You just happen to
Yeah.
have a better
The
system.
Pirates.
You're just the Pirates. You just happen to have a better system and had more of a runway here, but that's it now. So
Yeah.
That's our mailbag. By the way, I feel bad for Jared Jones. Internal brace, it looked like with Keith Meister, so it should be back about All-Star break in next year, but that sucks. But hey,
Yeah.
All-Star break next year, Skeens, Bubba, Jones. Sure.
They should let Jones hit.
Yeah, he could swing it.
Yeah.
there
He's got
was some
juice.
Jack, do you remember that clip we just posted about you saying you feel bad for Skeeds? Like the top comment is they should put Skeeds in the lineup. Get him
Yeah,
some extra
sure, have
offense.
a
Well, I was
DH.
actually
Give him
crazy.
an Air Force.
Bubba has hit as a professional as well, and Jared Jones was a legit prospect with the bat too. Those three guys must probably walk off the mound some days. I know Bubba hasn't got to the show yet, just being like, "Damn it, I might be able to hit better than some of these guys."
Yeah, dude. But they've got guys in AAA right now. Like Why isn't York in that lineup yet? Like
I have no
Billy
idea.
Cook, like why is Billy Cook not in that lineup yet? And I know he's been struggling, but like he was fine in the big leagues last year. Like eh,
Spencer Horwitz just came back though. He might
I
save the
know,
season.
and Nick Gonzalez is on rehab, Andy's on rehab. Like it could get less horrible.
Yeah,
I like that. Less horrible.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we got. That's our mailbag.
That'll do it for this episode of the Just Baseball Show. If you did enjoy, best way to support, rate and review Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you could leave a written review, be greatly appreciated, as well as subscribing, commenting, liking on YouTube. Of course, we'll be back next week. And in the meantime, if you want to go get yourself some Just Baseball merch, you can find the link in the episode description, as well as joining the best baseball group chat in the world. You can find the link to our Discord as well in the episode description.
I love Aram and I standing with Bueller right now. This
Yeah.
is big. Both wearing Bueller Family Foundation hats. That guy's a freaking dog. That was baller stuff.
That was
Yeah,
an incredible
that was
objection.
baller stuff.
Oh, also, I forgot my last word. You guys ready for this?
Oh yeah, go.
It's very short. What do you guys think is the most purchased item at Walmart year over year? The most purchased item at Walmart.
Like Band-Aids.
Nope. I couldn't believe the answer. Actually, you can kind of believe the answer, but it's a dumb answer, and that's why I wanted to bring it up.
So like I immediately go to like Band-Aids, toilet paper.
Toilet paper was my first guess when I was asked this question. It's not toilet paper.
Everyone
Not paper
poops. I loved
towels.
that book growing up.
Yeah.
It's not paper towels.
No. I'll give you a hint. It's a food.
Please tell me it's like Hot Pockets or something.
No, it's not.
Damn.
I don't even have a guess.
I'll give you another hint. It's a fruit.
Bananas.
Like bananas?
Bananas. Isn't that
Bananas.
crazy?
Bananas are they're just so solid.
They
It's
play,
always
they're
a safe
versatile.
bet.
But Walmart sells everything. I was shocked to hear that it was bananas is the most purchased
like,
item there.
I'm just thinking, what does everybody buy? You know what I mean? So you have everything, but what does literally everyone buy?
That's why toilet paper is such a good answer.
Because
It's
everyone
not.
poops. But also,
Yeah.
like, chances are a lot of people get bananas, and like you
Well, what do
get
bananas make you do? Not
Oh.
poop.
But think about this: like toilet paper, you need to get one like bulk thing of toilet paper every 4 or 5 months. Bananas, you get every week. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. But I would also like, would apples be more? No, I guess it
No.
would just be bananas.
Bananas are way more versatile.
I don't know. Did that not shock you guys? It shocked me when I heard it was bananas.
I was expecting it to be an item. I didn't think
Yeah.
everybody's on bananas like that.
So that'll do it for this episode of the Just Baseball Show. Hopefully everybody enjoyed. For Jack McMullen, Arm Layton, I'm Peter Apple. We will see you next week. And with that, thank you, everybody.